Good evening, Hank Green. It is Ted the Speed Learner here, and I know you weren't expecting this, but I'm going to make a video response to your 17 rants. I don't know if you've gotten any other video responses to this, but I'm going to go ahead and make mine. I have a tablet right here. I know there's a map on this side. There's some other information on this side, and we're just going to get into this right now. Okay, the first thing you bring up is the subject of cheese, specifically American cheese. Now, how was American cheese originally made? Well, here's how it worked. They used to make bricks of Colby and cheddar cheese, and when they would make the bricks, they would have to, of course, trim them into the right shape. When they trimmed the shape, they had cheese trimmings left over, which originally went to waste. But some American entrepreneur got in his thick skull that, hey, this would be great if we took all these trimmings, put them in a pot, mix them together, put a little extra cheddar in there, heat them up, and all of a sudden, we're going to have American cheese. That's how it got invented. Now, I will agree with you that Kraft cheese is not really American cheese. Okay? Just because it is a milk product does not necessarily make it a cheese. Sour cream is a milk product, and it is not American cheese. And we can say the same thing of cottage cheese. It is not really cheese, okay? We can say the same thing of cake. Cake has milk in it, but that doesn't make it cheese. Even cheesecake is not really cheese. You would now take a slice of cheesecake and put it on your hamburger. It just wouldn't happen. I'm sure some crazy guy will do that someday, but it's not. No. Okay. Then you bring up the subject of chemicals. Okay, when it comes to the subject of chemicals, let me tell you something. There are a lot of chemicals in the world. I agree with you on that. There are also plenty of minerals in the world. But you do not see me on a regular basis bringing in minerals like uranium and plutonium. Just because they're minerals doesn't necessarily mean that they belong in your house. And you will not see those kind of minerals in my house, I can tell you that for sure. And you bring up the subject of all natural. Let me tell you something. There's a lot of things organic in this world. Certainly celery is organic. And we can go on by saying that potatoes and tomatoes and broccoli, they're all natural foods. But we can also say that orchids are also organic, but you do not see me eating them on a regular basis, because if you did, I wouldn't be on this camera much longer. Trust me. Wouldn't be pretty. Anyway, when you make a reference to toilet paper, you were talking about the one-ply toilet paper. Why do most restaurants and grocery stores and department stores and movie theaters and all that kind of stuff, why do they use one-ply toilet paper? Well, because number one, the toilet paper, when it's one-ply, it weighs less. Number two, it is cheaper to manufacture. Therefore, it is also cheaper to ship to the store because it is weighing less than the normal toilet paper. It makes economic sense for them. The thing is, it's not very comfortable for us, and that's a problem. So, therefore, my personal suggestion is go to the bathroom before you leave to that place, and of course go to the bathroom after you get finished with that place, because you really don't want to use that kind of toilet paper. Now, I know that there are ladies out there, they put toilet paper in their purses, and therefore they don't have to worry about this kind of stuff, but we guys, we don't carry purses, so there you go. Alright, then you talked about pee. One of the things you didn't mention about pee is that pee contains creatine, which comes from your muscles, and also it contains uric acid. Do I really have to say too much more about uric acid? It's an acid, for Pete's sake. Nobody wants to touch an acid. It doesn't matter what kind of an acid it is. They don't want to touch it. Get the picture? And then trivia fans, or fan trivia. Okay, I see a lot of people poking their brains with a ton of fan trivia. The problem is they're not putting a whole bunch of real trivia in their brains. They would lose at Trivial Pursuit. And the thing is that that's one of the reasons why that we have unemployment like we do today. We need to get better educated, people. We are turning from an industrialized society to an intellectual society. And once we do that, you'll either be smart or you won't be employed. It's that simple. I know you guys probably won't believe me, but it's true anyway. Let me tell you something. Poison will kill you whether you believe it or not. And what I have just told you is true, whether you believe it or not. Don't believe me. I don't care. It's not me. It's going to be on the unemployment line. I can tell you that. Alright. I agree with you about turn signals and brake lights and everything else. If people were properly braking and turning the way they were supposed to, then we would have fewer accidents, and more importantly, we would have not near the loss of production time. Okay, now remember, productivity is cut because if you have a wreck, then you can't really get to work, you can't get to school, the whole 9 yards. It really cuts into productivity. And it can cost you in merchandise. Remember, you have to replace the automobile that's just been wrecked. So on an economic front and a productivity front, it really, between time and resources, yeah, wrecks are more costly than you think. Just think about that. Okay, and then you talked about Jif. Okay, it is really called Jif. The guy who invented it was Steve Wilhite. Okay, he invented it back in 1987. It is the graphical interchange format, and he invented it for CompuServe. Okay, now recently this Steve Wilhite was given an award, and when he gave his speech, his acceptance speech for the award, okay, he was standing there telling people that the reason why he called it Jif was to remind them of Jif peanut butter, so it would be a mnemonic device, basically. Okay, he was giving people a mnemonic device so they remember his product. That's a clever idea. I think that's wonderful. So when people start calling it GIF instead of Jif, they're pretty much offending him. I think we should just stick with what he says. He's the one that invented it. He put it the way he wanted it, and he had a good reason for doing so. So let's call it Jif because it's honor of him and his creation. Alright, now what about ketchup? Why was it ever put in glass bottles to begin with? Because ketchup was invented long before plastic. Now I know people say, well, why is it being put in plastic now? Well, here's some reasons. One, plastic is cheaper to manufacture than glass. Plastic weighs less than glass, so it saves on transportation costs. And when you're talking about putting it on a store shelf, some customer comes in, picks it up off the shelf, and accidentally drops it. Well, plastic is less likely to break than glass. Now, I know that plastic can break, especially the caps. The cap breaks, you can still have a mess. But normally, plastic doesn't break, but glass always will. Well, this is a really, really, really thick glass. Okay? And even that can shatter and break. Okay? So, there you go. Now you say, well, what's the big deal about cleaning up a mess? Well, the big deal is that you're dragging a sales clerk from waiting on customers, stocking shelves, and making the shelves look nice to clean up your mess. That's a loss of productivity, which costs the company, including the employee. That's what the big deal is. So it makes good economic sense on production time and materials, and on shipping costs, and on productivity of sales clerks to put ketchup in plastic bottles over glass. Okay. Now, when it comes to sneezing, some people have medical conditions that cause them to sneeze all over the place. These can be medically treated, of course, but the thing is that some people just simply cannot afford the medical treatment that it would take to fix those kind of problems. Hence, my suggestion to them would be to use the phrase, discretion is the better part of valor, and try to find some private place where you can take care of your mess without making it a mess for everybody else. At least until you can get proper medical treatment. That's my thoughts. Now, chair wheels. I agree with you, they should fix those chair wheels. That's ridiculous the way they have them. And I agree with you on that. And I agree with the cord tangling. They should have some cord detangling device which could detangle all those cords so we don't have to worry about that. Alright, then you moved on to alternative lifestyles. Now, it's sad to say that some people presume that everybody lives these alternative lifestyles the same way. I can tell you right now, I have met lots of people that live alternative lifestyles and they do not always live it the same way. Thank heavens for that. But there are some people that adorn themselves with flamboyant attire simply for the fact that they want to draw attention to themselves. And that's where the derogatory gay statement comes from, is that the people were poking fun at their flamboyant attire. Now, I will be the first to tell you that I will never make fun of somebody with an alternative lifestyle. That's stupid and it's just dead wrong. Okay? Their sexual preferences and yours are none of each other's business. I don't care what other people do, and I don't think they should really mind what I do. Okay? My sexual preferences are none of their business, and their sexual preferences are none of mine. However, when you're standing there in the middle of a shopping mall with flamboyant attire, drawing unnecessary attention to yourself and trying to make a public spectacle of yourself, you betcha I'm going to make fun of that. That's stupid and it's wrong. You don't see me making a public spectacle of myself. Well, I expect the same of all of you. So as long as you're not making a public spectacle of yourselves, you'll not hear a peep from me. That's just the way it is. So it's a matter of the difference between being a public spectacle and just living your life. You can live your life without being a public spectacle. You don't have to plaster yourself on a ton of billboards and say, hey, look at me, and demand us all to look at you. You live your life, we'll live ours. Fine. And then the club card. That's the fault of a computer programmer. Now, really what's going on here is they're trying to pressure you into not only getting a club card, but actually using it. The reason for that is it's as much a benefit for the retailer as it is for you, because they don't want to bring in merchandise that you're not going to buy. And they certainly don't want to have a situation where you come into the store and you're not getting the merchandise that you really want because it was never brought into the store. So they want to make sure to cater to you. That's why they have the club card. The more they know about you, the more stuff they'll bring in that really caters to your needs, and the less stuff that they're going to bring in that won't. Now, I know there's a privacy issue on that. I totally understand that. But you have to have a delicate balance between making sure the store caters to you and maintaining your privacy at the same time. That's not easy, but it's there. All right. That's all I've got to say in this video. I will tell you more in a future video, so stay tuned.